Good evening, everybody. As Doug said, my name's Faye. I'm Head of Delivery and Transformation at River Island. Excuse me, hang on a minute. Oh, that's a good start, isn't it? Right, there's obviously too much wine before presentation. Yeah, rookie error. So obviously the topic today is Agile Transformation. What I'm specifically going to be speaking to you about today is transformation of an IT department, people, process and technology end to end. Forget the Agile bit, almost. What it's really about is transformation enabled by Agile principles before you would all look confused and say, hang on a minute, I signed up for an Agile Transformation talk. Of course, I'm going to be talking about Agile Transformation, but the focus is on transformation and the why of transformation. And I'm sure, there are lots of different people here, and I'm fascinated to know why you've all come to this evening and what your interest is in this topic. So I've tried to keep the content as broad as possible. Obviously, there's opportunity for networking and questions at the end. And I have colleagues in the audience. We've got my Head of Business Analysis, Simon, there, who can talk to you about our business analysis journey in an Agile context. No pressure, I've got the Agile Roundabout superstar guru. What was it you called him? Yeah, something like that. No, legend, that was it, thank you. No pressure, Charlie over there, our Head of Architecture. So I have friends in the audience that can answer questions that I can't. But without any further ado, let's carry on. So I've got Lana clicking my buttons here this evening because I don't have the dexterity to hold notes. I remember what I'm saying and click and hold a microphone. So before I dive in, I just thought it was useful to understand a little bit about River Island. Obviously, you all know that River Island is a clothing retailer in the UK, but not a lot of people understand the history and the background of River Island, and that's really, really important context when it comes to understanding our transformation journey. So River Island, it's a family-owned business started by Mr. Bernard Lewis in the late 1940s. In the middle of a bomb site in the Second World War, first started selling fruit and veg, and then very quickly expanded into garment, and opened a store which was Lewis Separates, very quickly opened 9 stores, then rebranded as Chelsea Girl. Those of you of a certain age might remember that. I won't ask who remembers and who doesn't. And then opened Concept Man. That was obviously giving away my age, the men's equivalent of Chelsea Girl, and then in the 1980s rebranded as River Island. And today we have 320 retail outlets across 12 countries. So you can obviously see that the company has undergone an awful lot of change, an awful lot of growth over the last 70 years or so. But it's very much an entrepreneurial business, a family-run business, one that has got a very, very long history. Thank you, Lana. So where was IT in this history? The answer is largely in a building across the road. Okay, so I'm sure some of you might get the cultural reference there, and there's no offence meant to anybody in the IT group at any period in time, but IT was a support function. IT was very much keeping the lights on, looking after the networks, ensuring business continuity. And the business didn't really see the need or have any kind of particular interaction with the IT group. What that meant was IT was very much focused, as I say, on support and didn't really focus on the change that you see in IT groups today. So there was no real development, change capability. And what happened was, as we know, that systems became less about back end, more about integration with process, far more front end focused. And when that started to happen, there were new challenges put on the IT group. There were new demands on a body of people that were used to keeping the lights on and focusing on operational support. Add to that, the digital age happened and new skills were required to help River Island move with the times, to respond to consumer demands and the growth in technology within retail. What what happened was we started to respond to that change, but we started to try to implement new projects and programs to start to roll out ERP programs, HR systems to support business process operation, new MFP system to support our merchandising department, and we started, successfully trying to design and implement these systems. But what happened was that put a pressure on the relationship between business and IT, because that dynamic was changing, the systems were changing, we needed to work in different ways, and also new skills were required. And that is when, in 2015, we started on our transformation journey. So our CIO, who you've now met, Doug Gardner, he set out a vision to create an RI tech department that could support River Island in its transformation to be a tech department that could support River Island in its journey to be a digital company that could really compete with pure plays and with its competitors. What did we do first? So obviously, as I said, we had a number of projects and programs that were in flight, things that we absolutely had to do, like stabilising our website, replatforming, implementing some of these big systems. And so we had a locomotive that was in motion. And we needed to bring in new skills, new people to do that. So the first thing we did was start to create a new skeleton structure. So how do we need to be organised against business objectives in order to meet the demands of the future of the business? So we set out the structure, but that's a structure in itself. Bringing in some new people with a few Java development capabilities, not enough to really transform the business and transform the department. So we set out a plan to really transform the tech department, people, process and technology. We needed to create the environment, the ecosystem to support a fundamentally new way of working, both within IT and working with the business. But as I say, this machine was running. We couldn't just stop and say, okay, we'll go away for 6 months, we'll redesign our department, and then we'll come back to you. So what we did was we adopted a phased approach, which was stabilisation, new foundations, scale capability, and continuous improvement. And the scale capability is highlighted there because that's where we are right now, and I'll talk you through where we are and where we're going as I move through. But that was our approach. So what has actually changed? Our transformation has really been end-to-end, wall-to-wall, and to be honest, taking a step back and creating the slide, even I was amazed. It was like, wow, we've actually delivered so much. For everything from the structure that we created and we launched, it was 18 months, a year or so ago, and we have since then, Agile wasn't really even a word that we used at that point. It was all about, as I'll talk about in a minute, it was all about what are we trying to do and where are we trying to go. We have, yes, for sure, we have implemented Scrum, we've implemented Kanban, but that's not all. Agile principles are fundamentally running through everything that we have done. So we have developed an entirely new operating model based around Agile principles, based around prioritization, based around flexibility, based around business value first. We've also fundamentally changed the way we work with the business. As I said, the business very much viewed IT as an IT support function. That's not the case anymore. That has been an evolution, however, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment as well. But it has fundamentally changed. We're now working far more hand in hand with the business. Tech is very much an enabler of value delivery at River Island. We've also built whole new departments, architecture being one of them, and we're not done yet, and I'll come back to that too. But we're fundamentally changing the way we manage our finances and how we manage our portfolio. And we're using some brand new technologies. So we have changed an awful lot. And there's a certain amount of risk in changing a lot at once. And that's why it needs to be really well managed. And that's why, I guess, topics like today, that's why we're talking about it, right? Because it's not easy. And we have bitten off quite a lot. hopefully not more than we can chew. It feels like we've kind of crested the hill a little bit, but there's no doubt about it. It is tough. We have really hit it hard, but it feels like, at the moment, fingers crossed, it feels like we're winning. So let me tell you a little bit more about that journey. How did we do it, and what did we learn? The first point, why bother? The value, the why, it's the most important thing in Agile, right? Why? Why do it? And that, to me, is the most important thing when you're doing transformation, because it's so tempting, I think, today. Agile is, it's the buzzword. Everybody thinks they need to be doing it too. If it's a case of me too, you're going to fail, right? If it's a case of we need to be Agile, there are countless organisations that I hear, XYZ organisation, they've been 3-4 years trying to get their Agile transformation off the ground. That's because it's not about Agile transformation. The most important thing is about understanding why you're doing it. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And where we started was by setting out an objective. What did we want to achieve? We wanted to enable River Islands to be a fantastic digital organisation. We wanted to deliver value faster. We wanted to be more predictable in what we delivered, and a host of other things. And these are the things that we use to sit down with our chief exec and COO and say, look, we want to invest some money, not a huge amount, and I'll come back to our approach as well, in transforming our department, because you want us to be able to help you to keep up with your competitors and to meet this challenge of pure play market, don't you? Yes. You can see that we don't have the skills to do that, don't you? Yes. Okay. So the why was really important, getting people to understand the challenge, the problem that we needed to solve. And that's really important also, not just from getting chief exec and your stakeholders to buy into that change. And that was really important to make it not just Agile transformation because tech think it's a great idea, but it's attributing it to business value and outcomes. That was the most important thing. But then also the people that you need to change along the way, the people that you need to change their ways of working. It's so important to be, first of all, talking about getting buy-in to the problem that you're trying to solve, and then coming up with a solution, which just happens to be Agile ways of working. Sorry, sorry. I feel like I'm doing karaoke if I hold it this close. And I'm not going to start singing because that would be really bad. Okay. So the why is really important, and you've got to start with the why. Forget about Agile transformation. And I would even say if you're thinking about leading one, or you're thinking about being part of one, forget about Agile transformation. Think about what you're trying to achieve. So the next point, even if you've got a great why, and even if you can get people to buy into what you're doing, I really do feel like Kylie Minogue now. You are going to upset people, okay? So because people don't like change. And even if you've got great reasons for doing it, even sometimes when you think you've got great reason for change, you're not going to like change, once it really bites. But if you've got a great why, you've got half a chance of keeping people bought into that change. Therefore, change management is really, really fundamentally important in this journey. You need help to make sure that people are thinking about hearts and minds, keeping people bought in, keeping people focused on the why, and helping people understand why people's jobs are going to be impacted, why people's roles are going to change. And people are not going to like this, so it's just a case of working out how you're going to manage it. Equally, if you're sitting here and you're about to join a company that is about to go through Agile transformation, or you yourself are going through it at the moment, do you know what? It's okay to feel a little bit uncomfortable about it. You kind of have to, I liken it to kind of, if you're in the sea and you're in the waves and, I don't know, bodyboarding. I'm a really, really bad swimmer and really, really bad at bodyboarding. When I get caught in that jet wash, you've just got to go with it and know that you're just going to land in the right place at the end of it. And that's kind of what change is like, in that you have to just go with it. You know it's not going to feel very pleasant along the way if it's not your idea. But you just got to know that you're going in the right direction, and you've got to go with it. And as I say, change management and people that understand how to make change happen can make that journey a whole lot more pleasurable. And there are certain things that you can do if you are change leaders in this community here to make that more pleasant experience for people and more successful. Next slide, thank you. So the next thing that I would say is be agile about your agile transformation. So as I said, when we started this, we're in the middle of delivery. You can't just stop delivery, and it's really, really important to focus on what's important. We all know that agile is all about value, right? It's all about focusing on what's your number one priority. So don't sit in the corner and plan out this massive agile transformation. Focus on why are we doing it? What's our outcome? What's the most important thing we need to fix first? And focus on fixing it. One of the things I think we could have done better is and that's what we did, right? So we got a load of people together, management people that we'd put in this structure, as I say, set out the structures, define the accountabilities, and then involve those people in the transformation. And those are the people, as I say, who I've called out who are here today, business analysis, we've got someone who's looking after delivery and architecture. So, right, okay, how do we make it work? And what's our backlog of change? But the most important thing, as I say, what we learned, what we could have done better, is probably explaining to people what we weren't focusing on and why we weren't focusing on it. Because you get people coming into the organisation, hiring people, we're going on this great agile transformation journey and we're making loads of new things happen. People coming in, well, why is that like that? That doesn't work, that's not agile. Well, we know that, we haven't got there yet because there's only so many things you can change at once. We communicated about what we were doing, but it's communicating also about what you're not doing and why you're not doing it and why other things are a priority. And that was probably partly as a result of another decision that we made, and that was not to have permanent transformation team. So many companies will hire a whole host of consultants to come in and do their agile transformation. We chose not to do that, and partly that I take you back to the culture of River Island. The culture of River Island is not to have it's not a corporate culture, okay? It's very pragmatic, it's very down to earth, it's very get on with the job. And had we proposed this, army of 10 people even to come in and do agile transformation, it may not have been as successful as it has been today. We might have turned people off. We might have got people to ask far too many questions and lose faith. But what that did mean was that there was an awful lot of pressure put on the people who were in roles. We all had transformation responsibilities within our roles, and probably we weren't as pacey as we could have been. But actually, maybe that was a good thing because it gave people time to get used to the change. We as I said, we were agile. We introduced change incrementally. We fixed problems and then we improved on the fixes, and we incrementally built on our ways of working, moving us more and more in the direction of agile. And that was an important thing to really set out where we were going. We knew we wanted to be, as pure, as good at Scrum, as good at Kanban, and as adherent to agile principles as we could be. But were we going to be like that at day one? No, we weren't. We could have communicated it more. Perhaps we could have had more dedicated transformation roles, but there are reasons why we didn't. And I think it's a choice. It depends on your organisation and it depends on your expectations. So as you can probably see, we have evolved. It's not been a revolution, it's been an evolution. And that's helped us take people with us on the journey. It's helped, maybe you could call it a little bit of a Trojan horse, like we've kind of said, this is a problem, isn't it? Okay, let's have this is a great solution, let's improve upon that. And all of a sudden, you end up at a very agile, very modern, very forward-thinking organisation. But I think, and we have found that change sticks the more that you take people with you on that gradual journey. You run the risk of turning people off if you come in with a sledgehammer and say, right, we're going to be agile and this is what it means, bang. You run the risk of losing completely. Downside is it takes a bit longer. The other downside is that, as I say, people coming into your organisation who have operated in a purely agile environment, it doesn't go down so well, okay? Compromises, oh, that's not agile. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're complete, novices at agile. They don't know what agile is. They're the, 1940s organisation that think they can open a Shoreditch office and be agile. Well, yeah, that is a challenge. And so moving on to that challenge. So, a controversial statement, Agile, there's no right or wrong. Okay, of course, there is right or wrong in terms of Scrum, in terms of Kanban. There are certain ceremonies, certain things which make it Scrum and make it Kanban. But I would say that what's right is right for your organisation, and it's right for your organisation at any point in time. So let me give you an example. What I'm talking about specifically is the interpretation of what Agile principles, and let's remember that it's not a methodology, it's principles, and it's what it means to some of the peripheral, it probably sounds a bit wrong, but the things which are not inherently Scrum, so the roles which exist within that ecosystem. So I'm talking about project management, business analysis, product ownership, Scrum Master. We've had huge internal debates around whether those roles exist. Where does one role start? Where does one end? Do we need them all? And when I say what's right or wrong, I think one needs to bear in mind the environment that one's in and what you're trying to achieve. So let's take those group of roles. If you look at the role of a product owner and the sort of formal definition, the purest definition of that product owner should, in theory, be managing your stakeholders, should be engaging with the business, should understand the vision, should understand the strategy, should understand where you're going, should be writing user stories, should be prioritising the backlog of stuff that you're going to be doing, and then they should be working with the development teams and involved in QA. That's fine if you're working with a web platform and you've got a change that is very focused. You are going to know what your stakeholders want, you are going to be able to write the stories, and you are going to be able to sit with the dev team. Now try and expand that to implementing RFID, so radio frequency ID. Try and expand that to a POS system where you've got to engage with stakeholders across the entire business, and you are looking at user stories from everything from finance to gift card to XYZ. And you've got not just one, but 2 or 3 development teams to be working with. Not only is the scope of that role now massive, but the skills required to do that at the level that is required, at that enterprise scale, that program scale, dare I say, and I'm not even going to get into program and project and product because that's a whole nother debate. But even that, it's not rocket science and it's not black and white. But those roles, we have found that we do have project managers, we do have business analysts, we do have product owners. There is a place for all of them in the enterprise environment, in our opinion. Now, whether that will still be the case in a year, 2 years' time, where all those roles have evolved, who knows? But what's important is working out what you're trying to achieve and working out a way with the roles that you've got to achieve that outcome. And it is definitely the case that I think we believe, that what you need and the solution depends on the environment that you're working in and what you're trying to achieve within the business that you operate in. The other bone of contention is dates. Okay, so a couple of statements along the lines of, oh, it's Agile, we don't do dates, we don't give you dates. That kind of statement can really derail your Agile transformation when you're talking to a retail operation where everything is date-driven and they have to schedule staff to be in store for training, whether it be changing to the DC, so you have to, down tools and you've got parcels due to go out at a certain time. In an enterprise, in a retail environment, dates do matter. However, I'm sure that most of us who have worked in a waterfall environment know that if you try and fix time, scope, cost, quality at the start of this wonderful 2-year program, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. You know that things are going to change, and you know that in the end of it, you're going to have spent more, taken longer, or change your scope. Yeah, and that's what Agile's all about. That's where it came from. So it's about bringing those two paradigms together, and that's one of the challenges of transformation, is taking the people who passionately believe, as I'm sure some of you do, and all of us do, in Agile principles that make it what it is, make it the great set of principles that it is, but also coming together with the realities of business. What we did here was we started talking about, we're going to deliver in July. We didn't come out and say, we're doing Agile, therefore you don't have dates anymore, as I say. That would have derailed completely. We started off by saying, I'm going to deliver in July, sort of not really mentioning the fact we weren't really giving a date. And then when we had finally given the business Agile training, as I say, it was an evolution. We started to introduce change gradually and introduce ways of working, and we didn't really kind of do Agile training until later. When we finally did give them Agile training, we then came back and said, okay, you've had your training now. You understand what Agile is about, why it works, why Burn Up is a really useful tool. And actually, while we were doing Agile training, we did a Burn Up chart on how many slides were left to go and how much time we'd taken, so that people would actually see progress and our progress against planned delivery, which was simple but quite good. Now once they'd seen that, we said, actually, do you know what? We're not going to give you an out-and-out date at the start of the project. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a landing zone. And we're going to give you a percentage confidence on that landing zone. And the closer we get to delivery, the higher the confidence will be on that landing zone and the narrower it will be. And different projects will will require narrower landing zones earlier or later in the life cycle. So our POS program at the moment, we need to be fairly specific around our landing zone because we've got a whole army, literally, of people to train, and we've got to schedule store visits. But other projects, we can be more flexible on the landing zone. So it's really about each side understanding what they're trying to achieve and working together. Okay, the world is round, not flat. This is really about building on those points around dates and about Agile, what it means to people. Whether you're planning transformation, whether you yourself are part of it, or you're trying to get a job, or you're trying to hire someone to come and help you with that Agile transformation, people's perspective, people's opinion is always going to be determined by your experience, your environment. And world is flat. We all thought the world is flat until we managed to travel and actually see outer space. I don't know what it was, but at some point we realised actually the world's round. Even though we can't see it in our daily life, we know it's round. I've interviewed loads of people who think, who don't get that enterprise context, who don't get that actually, do you know what, we've got stores, we've got distribution, we've got a myriad of complexity in our business. The greatest example of this phenomenon was actually third party will remain nameless, but we were going to work with a third party, and one of the representatives sat down with me and argued very strongly that you didn't need architecture, not in an Agile environment. I bet you like that one, Charlie. I was like, really? So I'm going to embark on a POS program with finance and gift card and all of that great stuff, and I don't need an architect. Okay. Because in his world, he'd only worked in a very narrow, pure play digital environment with a website, and yeah, for sure, the engineers, the tech leads, they could architect the solutions that they're working on. That's true in that paradigm. Different paradigm, different truth. So you can see that bringing people together in this environment with different perspectives, different thoughts, different ways of working, different cultural backgrounds, and also expanding at the rate we've had to expand. So we were about 70 people back in late 2014, 2015. We're now 200-ish. It's an ever-moving target. Bringing all those people together at once is difficult, yeah? You don't know each other, you interview people, but do you really know people's strengths and weaknesses? Do you trust each other? Building teams is really, really hard. And we've also wanted to build a new culture. Yes, as Doug said, this office is very much fundamentally part of building that culture, building a more collaborative, more open, more energetic culture. In line with, I guess, Agile principles and indeed modern working culture. And the tools that we have used, we have our own internal comms team, and we organise Friday events every month or two where we bring everybody together. We look at, we share knowledge, we share ways of working, we pick new topics like machine learning, we do knowledge sharing. We bring people together to start working together, and to start just building a relationship. But what this slide says here really is a really important point, is what we have found to really accelerate that coming together of that team is personality profiling, be that a version of Myers-Briggs or predictive index that we've started to use. It may sound a little bit over the top, it may sound a little bit uncomfortable, but what it has done is really helped us to accelerate that getting to know you piece, that getting to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your ways of working, being able to harness the best from people. Because at the end of the day, you go through this recruitment process and you hire people who've got great experience, and maybe they're coming into a new environment which is very different. You want to get the best out of that person you've hired, and you yourself want to be able to work be the best you can be. So we've only just started looking at this now and looking at how we build the team from a very much sort of scientific point of view, but it's something that we're really keen on exploiting and developing to make River Island a better place to work and to make us more successful. Oh, you've missed one. That's it. Just a quick one. So when we did finally sort of admit to the business that all of these solutions that we've been giving you to all of these programs, all of these problems, it's all about Agile, and we gave them Agile training, they were like, wow, this is brilliant. We want to use this. We want to use Kanban. We want to reorganise our buying and merchandising team to be Scrum-based. Can you come and help us, please? It's like, oh, okay, we've not quite got our sales sorted out yet, but we'll help you where we can. So we've been helping River Island across the business to use Kanban to facilitate ways of working, and I'm sure we've not seen the last of it yet in terms of facilitating the way that we work. Because River Island, as I said, we talked to our chairman about Scrum, and he's like, yeah, that's the way we've always worked, and we need to get back to that. You know, we all know it's not rocket science. It's got its foundations in common sense, and River Island's a clothing, manufacturing-based organisation, and these fundamental principles are very, very familiar to the business, which is great for us. And you know what? This was a really good endorsement of the fact that we hadn't put them off so badly of this whole Agile idea over the last 18 months, that they were happy to embrace it and to look at using it in the business. So where are we? So we've gone through stabilisation, plugging our fingers in the leaky bucket to help us deliver the projects and programmes that were thrust upon us. And then we've created our foundation based on Agile principles, our operating model, and we've then gone through this stabilisation, this phase where we have, what did I call it? I can't even remember now. It's that phase where we're building on what we've done to make it better. We're not finished. We'll never be finished, right? We've changed so much. I'd like to think that we've delivered MVP on every area of transformation that we set out to deliver on. Some areas better than others, and we've still got stuff to do. But what we want to do in Q4 is move away from transformation and into that phase of continuous improvement. As I say, we'll never be finished, and nor should we be finished, because we don't want to have to go through another transformation. We want, whether we will or not, I don't know, maybe there'll be some big step change, but we need to be keeping our eyes open, our ears open to look at what's new. Where are we not doing so well? And that is the big thing that we can all do is to keep that open mind. The world isn't black and white. Just because we've decided on something today doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing tomorrow. Doug and I were with Amazon last week, talking to them about how they manage their business and their vision, their values, their leadership principles. They change their leadership principles when they feel it's appropriate in order to drive them forward. And that really, really is how we want to be. We want to be continually challenging ourselves to be better, to adapt to where we are, because at the end of the day, I think Darwin said it, and I'm not going to quote him because it'd be really cheesy, but being adaptable is the secret of success, right? I think that's it from me.